How to plant Caladium bulbs. One of the questions we all have when we are starting with Caladiums is, do we have to soak the Caladium bulbs before planting? And it's depending on what you really like. Not necessarily, but if you want to soak them in water, make sure that it's room temperature and just leave them in there for an hour or two. I'm going to be using these little thongs because I don't want to touch the wood chips that these Caladium bulbs came in. So first we add water to a container. Then we get the bulb, or plural, bulbs, and I'm going to let them sit in water for a while. Caladiums grow best in shade to part shade or dappled light. So if you have them in a place where they can get 3 or so hours of morning sunlight, they will be very happy. And if you have to have them in a place where it's full shade, they will also, most of the varieties will like it, but they will not grow as vivid colors as when they are with a little bit of sunlight. Also, you can have them in pots or in your flower bed and keep them in a dappled light so they develop all of the colorful leaves. So it's been already about an hour or so that I put them in water, and I also set them by a window with a little bit of sunlight. The water is lukewarm, and now we're going to plant the Caladium bulbs. I don't have pretty pots right now, so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be putting them in temporary containers. I put potting mix, dirt, and perlite, and I already sterilized my dirt because a few months ago I bought a bag of dirt and it had fungus gnats, and I didn't have any clue what those were, and sadly I put all my beautiful new plants into horrible dirt. I had very difficult time trying to make my baby plants survive. Many didn't make it. So now I sterilize my dirt before putting them in contact with my plants. Always, as a side note, always check that the dirt or the dirt bag doesn't have any little bugs flying around, because that means it's larvae growing in the bag, and you will take it everywhere. Wherever you take that horrible bag with bugs, it will go and kill your roots of your fresh little baby plants. Anyway, how deep do I need to plant the bulb of the Caladium inside of the dirt of your pot or in your flower bed? Typically, you want to put them around close to 2 inches of dirt on top. That's all you need. In theory, I guess I could put the 2 bulbs together in here, but I rather have them separate. You can put several bulbs together to have a more full look, but since this is just my transitional little planting container, I'm just going to leave them like that. So now, after they have been soaking in water for a while, I'm going to use the smaller one into this over here. I'm just going to make the space. You put the bumpy side up. See, the bumpy side and the more flat side. It's kind of flat, right? Or it has some little things like this. This should be down and the bumpy side up, because this is where the little leaves are going to be coming from. Don't worry too much if by accident you plant it upside down, because you couldn't tell what side was up and what side was down, because it will still grow. It will only take a little longer. So just to repeat, the part with the nodes goes up and the flatter side goes down. You put it about 2 inches or so of dirt on top, which I'm needing some more dirt. And then you water it. This little container has holes at the bottom so that the water will drip down here, which is dripping already. With the perlite, it makes the dirt go lighter so the water can go through better, and then you will never have a soggy plant that will rot eventually. I'm going to put it on a sunny window, and within 3 or so weeks, depending on the month. And what is the best time to plant your caladiums? It is around June. So around June or July is the best time, and especially if you live in colder areas. But if you live in like zone 9 or 10, it can be a little earlier, and it also depends on what type of caladium it is, because some start a lot earlier and can take a lot more sunlight. As a side note, check that the bulb is not squishy. That would mean that it's not good. So if it is feeling just, hard enough, it's a healthy bulb. So bumpy part up. If you have trouble seeing where the bumpy part is, take a closer look and try to find these little knots. Sometimes they are hard to see, or sometimes the base is not as flat, but as a general rule, the hairy or fibrous little area tends to be flatter, and the knotty area is what is called a bumpy part, at least by me. We put it over here. We cover it with about 2 inches or so of dirt. And we water it. How long does it take for caladiums to grow? In the best of conditions, they can start sprouting within a couple of weeks, but it can take about a couple of months if the temperature is not okay, is too cold, or is too much into the shadows or the shade in a dark corner of the flower bed. So it preferably needs warm weather, sunny areas, or at least dapple light, and you can wait a few months if you plant way earlier than June. How often should you water the caladiums? Preferably once a week, but if you live in an area that is very dry, I recommend that you water them every other day. Check the dirt, check and see if it feels dry, add a little bit of water. If it feels wet, then just leave them alone for a day or two, and keep them away from windy, dry areas, because if it is in a pot, they will dry faster than their usual time for being fresh and nice looking. So it all depends on your weather. If you live in a very dry area, water more often. And if you live in a humid area or it rains too much, or depends on how your weather is, you see if you keep them better in a pot or in a ground where they can drain the water easy so they don't rot.